If you go on the phone, are you able to hear me? Just testing the audio really quickly. Testing, testing.
Is it working for you?
I do not think so.
Well, it's just if you conscious.
Can those on the phone, are you able to hear me?
That's 4 minutes.
I did. That's coming in whenever.
What happened? Who's that?
Where is
Well, thanks for trying.
Oh, this is in the office. Here, I can get another one. I haven't had a chance. That's only one product. And as backup if you ever.
Great. Are we using this to record as well?
I don't need it. It's more of a. You don't want this forever. You know, I'd rather do it. Okay. With the apps on my phone or apps on my computer. Okay.
Just got out of the shower.
Paul, Patty, can anyone hear me?
No.
I'm not getting any. I sent a message. I don't know.
Really good at some of the like.
You want to drag a chair or you want to sit here?
Yeah, sure. I'll sit here.
Just watch your steps.
Steve, watch the wire. We have a flag, we have
Just a moment. I don't think we have it. Do not have the audio for this. No one's telling
Can they hear us? They can't hear us. They can hear us, but they can't talk.
Do you need someone a little younger that knows? Stuff? Like we always do.
Everyone's glaring at me.
It's telling me that
No, maybe. No, Brian's older than me. I'm 30. So it's like,
Baby.
Hello?
I know I have this job at work. Default millennial when it's time to solve. Like, why isn't the sound in the conference? It's like, I'll go fix it.
Paul, just say you can hear us.
Someone's got to do it.
It's just about 7. We're working on the Zoom stuff.
Okay, one more time. Can someone on the phone please try to come off mute and let us know if you can hear the room or not?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, you're just very, very quiet when you're coming through. So if you do have questions or comments, please go ahead and send them in the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye open for those messages coming through, especially during the public comment.
Okay, here we go. Calling the meeting to order, and I'm welcoming the community. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is behind us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And calling the roll, Niffy,
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
And Chris.
Present.
Right, okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? And I'll state right now, I'm sorry it was so delayed. We had issues, personal things, we're all volunteer. Stuff happens, and we will do better, I promise. This was kind of a compressed thing with it coming on so quickly, but we will do better.
It's been one continuous board meeting since August 6th.
Right.
It's been like 5.
Additions or deletions to the agenda, no one?
I might want to delete some of the old business so we can proceed a little bit more.
Okay,
Quickly.
that's fine.
Let's go ahead and remove item 4.4. That's the establishment of board committees.
Okay, that's, say what it is, removing the email sign up, you've got that done.
No, sorry, removing item 4.4, which is established board subcommittees.
Okay,
I want to
we'll
revisit
do that
when
at
we
a
go
later
to-
date.
Yes.
okay,
And we should probably have a brief discussion on the website, so let's keep that there.
yeah, okay. That was just the one.
Is there a network security?
Yes, it's that long, 70 is the
Oh, good
Wi-Fi
God.
password. Yeah, that's on the to-do list.
To make it bigger.
To
Make it
change it,
longer.
oh, my
Add more
God. To change
numbers.
it to a word.
There you go.
Can you read?
Yeah.
Want someone to read it off?
No, you're fine. Keep going. I'm not. too far
Okay,
behind.
are there any conflicts of interest of the board related to any of the agenda items?
No.
No. I
No.
would just, no.
Sorry.
Just want to take a minute. I know it was dark out there, but we have a new sign out in front of the station, contributed by one of the community members. He paid for it. He's not here, but I will talk, so we can talk about him. It was Garrett. Garrett, Steve Green, and Chris Creech put it up, painted the old sign, which you couldn't even read. And that's just what we're about, having the community pull together. No cost to the district, on their own dime, and it looks good. How about approval of the September 15 meeting minutes?
Were those couple changes I requested incorporated? I think they were. Okay, then I'm fine.
Take a motion to,
I move to approve the September 15th.
Second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay, I only got access today. I'm not the treasurer, let that be known. However, I tried to fill in a little bit. I only got access to the bank accounts actually today. I quickly went over them in the last hour. So that was like 4 or 3 o'clock when we got out of the bank with Deb. We had a beginning balance on September 1st, and since we had a meeting in the middle of the month, I'm a little bit, I'll just tell you what I know. On September 1st, the beginning balance in our checking account was $95,423 and change. We had a total of $21,495 of expenses, but we also had deposits of $9,499. Considerable amount of those deposits were from the Marshall Fire. So our ending balance as of 9/30 is $83,427. I do not have access as of yet to the 2 savings accounts, so I can't tell you anything about this. So there are some things I'd like to discuss a little bit. There's a lot of the normal expenses, $350 for the accountant. There was some supplies that Chris bought for $85. There's a I Am Responding, and we need to be aware of this. I Am Responding is a subscription.
That's correct.
It's $305, but don't pay it twice. I think
I
you
know.
could have paid it twice.
I didn't pay.
There was a crash repair for a woman who got hit by one of our fire trucks that cost $5,224 to the district. Unfortunately, but we have to be responsible and pay for these things on icy roads. We have a liability payment. I believe it's an insurance pool for 480. Chris, is that right?
I believe so. I'm not 100% certain.
Okay, it says Colorado Special District Liability Pool,
I would assume
$480. Normal payroll taxes, Jefferson Communication Authority, $684. We need to be aware we don't pay that one twice. Make a
Oh,
note.
no,
'Cause
I know.
I think we could have.
Well, if you found a check that was
I
clear.
think it cleared. 6219. Write that down, please, Deb, because I think we prepared a second check today.
Yes, we did.
Check 6219 was for $684.50 to the Jefferson County Communicate,
That's
Communi-
911. Yeah.
6219. $684.50, Jefferson Communication
Jefferson.
Center Authority. I have a couple questions about that, Chris.
Sure.
That check is actually going to Sue Blair,
No,
who runs our elections. She also runs the Communication Center Authority.
That sounds like two different things.
I think it's all under one.
I think the bill I saw today when we paid it, it said that on top, but underneath it says Community Resources. And I was wondering about that. Just
Yeah, so I mean, Jefferson County 911 Authority should be a separate governmental agency that should be a
This
totally
is
separate
different.
billing.
It says Jefferson County Communication Center Authority.
That's what you're talking about. This is 911.
Yeah, that sounds like the formal name of our dispatching center.
Okay, well, I like to be real careful because even today in our bills, I found one fake bill. It came from a couple, it looked like a government entity. It was for posters to post on the wall for labor laws. I called them up and I said, are you a private company? And they admitted that they were.
Mm,
It was not necessary to pay it. I said, thank you very much, goodbye. There was
Thank
a
you.
reduction, I got two today, on our feral gas rental. We rent the tank at Station 83, and they were billing us,
This tank here. Whoa, oh.
A different
company.
Propane tank, yeah.
Yeah,
propane
propane
tank.
tank.
and they were billing us $156. I called them up today. They dropped it to $52 for the year.
You know.
With a little talk.
Yeah.
They were reluctant because we haven't been buying our propane from them.
Of course, we got to go to Missouri to put out our house fire should it catch on.
They are in Missouri. But the interesting thing is feral gas, and we should be aware of this. Feral gas is charging $2.19 for propane, and independent propane company is charging us $2.45. And Feral said, how come you're not buying from us? We'll drop the price for the rental, but you haven't been buying from us. I think we should. We end up saving 25 cents again.
Sure, that's a good
I'm not
savings.
exactly sure how we get that rolling. I just want to make a note of
We
that.
might have to buy the tank from them. just to-
No, Feral
It's a
already owns a
rental.
tank. I don't believe Independent's supposed to be filling it.
Okay, all right, yeah, and I think a lot, well, I guess everyone up here knows, like, if you're not getting filled by the company that owns your tank, yeah.
Just making a mention, we can save some money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I paid $1.85 for propane 3 weeks ago.
I paid a lot more than that.
Well,
Yeah.
just so you know, propane, the prices go up and down throughout
Oh,
the
I know.
year.
I've been buying it for 20 years.
Okay. More.
Yes.
Steve? On
Yes,
that
Linda.
feral gas, I know, the window rock and us up here, we get on a contract.
Right,
it Locks in the price for a year.
We do that with
That's a real
Polar.
good deal.
I just
don't
think
know.
Independent's charging us a lot. Possibly they have a contract. I asked them today on the phone. I called them also with them. And they said, sorry, that's our price. We just charge you what we're told.
Yeah.
So there was not a lot of negotiation.
Steve, could I just ask one question?
Yes, sure.
Through Window Rock with our agreement, maybe we could ask because of close proximity, if this could be included in our homeowners agreement. It's just an extension of an address. I think
It's possible, Chris, but I think that we need to find out who owns this tank and if they will fill it, because if it's a rental tank, they may not want to fill it.
gotcha.
That happens.
Okay. I see a
Okay.
committee, see a committee in the future.
We received $2,171 from Jefferson County. I'm not gonna go over the little tiny expenses. There was Fleet Corps funding. What is Fleet Corps funding, Chris? Do you know?
What date is that?
It's 9/12. It's $278.51.
Universal.
It's an ACH, so we pay it regularly.
That is those are the fuel cards.
Yeah, the credit
Yeah.
cards for the
Okay.
fuel for the
Like-
train.
I was able to
Trucks.
sneak into
I
QuickBooks, so
thought
I'm
that's
looking at
what
the
it was.
expenditures
Yeah.
live
Okay,
right
cool.
now.
Good for you.
We have the Rise broadband. We have IRS payments for taxes, for payroll. Chief is all paid up, our last chief, he's all paid up. He was paid a total of $2,326.99 on approximately the 15th of September. 2 separate checks. All the other normal expenses, waste management, Viacom for internet,
Is waste management gonna keep coming up here?
I don't know.
I think- I
November
think
1st, they
when
said.
the Grange reports will ask about that
All right.
during
They
Terry's.
haven't picked up my trash in 2 weeks. and-
We have,
Mr.
No, we're now under contract with Western, so, yeah.
we received a fairly hefty sum for what I believe was the Marshall Fire. We received $6,827. And of that $6,827, one firefighter received $6,092.
But
Give us
that's other
service.
stuff, right?
That was just delayed payment on him. These incident payments take a really long time to clear.
It's a pretty good sum, I'm thinking of it.
Yes, it
Switch
is.
from the board to firefighting.
Well, we're happy. You'd be number 18 on the department if you wanted.
Okay, we have another deposit. It came from, I don't know why, but from the USAA Federal Savings. Do you know what that is? A $500 deposit? I don't know why. What it was for.
Was that the check that we received?
We
Oh,
did
that was
have,
a
I
donation.
did deposit the
That
check.
was a
but-
donation.
Was it a
Oh,
donation?
USAA must have been, yeah.
Okay.
A $500 donation.
Yes, from
Yes.
a
And that's the one I
grateful
showed you.
community member.
Okay. We paid Derek for his snow removal. I think that was last winter. The check finally cleared on the 27th of September. What is Bill pay Gulls Mobile?
Yeah,
Uniforms. Yeah,
Uniforms.
Yeah,
Got it.
I
Okay,
knew it was something.
the former Neves.
about 550 for uniforms. We have a law firm check for $525, which was on the 12th of September. Check 236231.
I'll have to.
I don't know about that check. I can't say what it was for.
Is
How
there any
much
other
was the amount?
description on the line item?
$525
I'll look it up if you couldn't
to
see.
CEGR Law.
Right, that's legal.
And then, of course, we have the credit card payments, and that's pretty much it. That was all the noteworthy expenses. There was a few credit card expenses, nothing outstanding or unusual. Things like QuickBooks and Zoom, and a little bit that the fail spent on cars or automotive related expenses. But everything was fairly straightforward there.
Okay,
And that is what I have for treasurer's report.
okay. That doesn't need a motion to approve or anything.
No, okay. And were there any other questions? I know-
Any questions?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Pretty darn good on fly.
I got
Future
out at
segue.
Thank you,
Future
Charlie.
segue.
3:00, we got out of Wells Fargo.
And then I'm trying to get out the door and he's calling me. He said, what's this check for? What's this check for? What's it for?"
So anyway,
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
old. I've been-
Next up is the chief's report.
All right.
Chris, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, looking at chief transition, initial draft of the position description has been circulated to the hiring committee of the board. I believe I sent that as a Google
Yes.
sheet. If you have any comments or revisions, please let me know. I think once that is ready and everyone is comfortable with sending it out, I've got a mental list of everywhere to push it to, and we'll see what we can do. Included in that advert, that is intended to be a single both description and advertisement. Included at the tail end is a rough application schedule. And when we, based on if this went out within the next week or two, I think we could reasonably have someone on by beginning of February next year.
Yeah,
That's assuming a long time to make sure that we dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's.
I didn't know if that could be compressed at all, or is that your best shot?
You know, I think we want to leave the time open
Okay.
for
You gotta
for a
get
reasonable
applicants.
extent, mostly because chief applicants are a little less common and it's not a super high bar. So Aurora Fire advertised a fire chief position today. So I read through their advertisement and their description. Ours will presumably be a little bit easier to fill, but they're paying $157,000 to $171,000 a year or more. I think it may have been 171 plus.
That's a full time.
That's correct. So scaling that down, we're not quite competitive on salary, but we'll see how we can work with potentially
Sure.
local departments. If anyone's got someone who wants to step into that role, that's where a lot of the marketing focus is really going to be in my mind, is with our neighboring agencies and senior officers there who may be interested in taking a step forward.
Right. Okay.
So if that is ready, I'm ready to pull the trigger on that.
Have everybody looked at it so we can go ahead and cut it loose?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm sure Chris
Yes.
knows what he's doing there.
Yeah, it looks good to me, Chris. And does anybody want to look at the actual?
I probably should look at it just a hair, but Chris, do we have to approve this right now?
Yeah, I'd like to do it.
Then there's only one thing I want to add.
Sure.
I would like to make sure that the chief, whoever may be our chief, realizes that the board,
It's in there.
and it says this in here, because I did not read this all over.
Yeah.
Okay, if it says in there, the board kind of tells the chief the policy that we.
Well, it's collaboration we're looking for.
No, it's the board, the chief, the firefighter.
I think Chris did a
community.
really good job of putting those catchphrases in there
Yes.
Okay,
to
Try-
make sure that they understand.
I like to think I'm okay at buzzword bingo sometimes. It's
Does
like
anybody?
position, the position establishes current and long-range objectives subject to approval of the board of directors and develops and implements operational plans, policies, and procedures.
and then you should keep the board informed of what he's doing.
And that's.
That's
what Chris has
among
been
the
doing.
list, including perform public communications and stakeholder engagement activities to further objectives. That's
Yes.
a duty.
Yes. So we're
So you can
looking-
hold them to that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
I said,
All right,
Go
so
ahead and. do
sounds
the thing.
good. I'll be transmitting this tomorrow then and we'll see how it goes.
Do we need to vote on that?
I don't think so, because that's more of an internal type thing.
It's your discretion if you would
We
like
can
to
make a motion
move as
if you want
such.
to.
We're gonna encumber funds to send out that and advertise, correct?
Not to my knowledge. I was gonna
It's already
attempt to
online.
use just boards, Facebook, email lists, et cetera. I think if we don't have sufficient interest by the next board meeting, that would be an opportunity to bring forward, hey, we probably need to encumber funds to advertise
Okay,
or to spread the search.
okay.
But at the moment, I think using fee-free solutions may be at least a way to go. And, you know, if we had to pay to advertise, we could get someone from Kansas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
like
yeah.
some risk associated with that too.
Okay,
So, okay, so,
continue.
all right, that's easy. One step forward. Finance budget is in a separate line item of the discussion, so we'll have one sentence to indicate we're skipping it. I guess I received word that you were stepping away, Julie. Is that still correct or not correct? Or you tell me. I'm flexible. You tell me.
I don't want to have nothing to do with bookkeeping, and I'll do all your administrative stuff, but no bookkeeping.
Okay.
Because, you know, I could figure it out.
It's okay.
I'm good.
I
I
get it.
understand.
Yeah.
I sympathize, Mary.
I have a question, Chris. There was a lot, there's, the admin position had a lot of entry for firefighters, hours and stuff.
Training records.
Is that something that you can work with Julie on, or is it you can take on that particular little
I think
thing?
we polished up a lot of the data entry for it to be basically automatic as a
Okay.
routine process. So
Okay.
complete whatever report gets written by the firefighter responsible for doing it.
Okay,
So we've streamlined a lot of the administrative steps and a lot of the paperwork steps. And to complement that, the IGA and the working relationship with the training group, the Timberline, to manage the training paperwork, because that's a whole separate ball of wax. With
There was,
those
just
two
real
in
quickly on
place.
that, there was a question at some point whether or not we were paying twice to get training records entered.
Yeah, and I don't believe we are. I think there's a key distinction to make between the quick training records that are what, for example, I complete after doing an evening's training, which is simply, we have the following people doing this thing everyone here, yes, check the box, enter it into the computer. Then there's managing the list of annual things you have to do to maintain your certification, and then managing the certifications with both the state of Colorado and the wildland certifications in the federal system. Between those, really that higher level data entry, managing the system with the state, managing the system with the federal government, and then managing the ongoing continuing education requirements, et cetera, that's where the real heavy lift is. Our logging of training is, I bang out a training report in 2 minutes.
So Timberline is taking care of all the rest of that.
That's correct. The heavy admin lifting on the training side is performed under the IGA with Timberline.
Sorry, I derailed you.
Yeah, no
Sorry.
problem. So what we will do then is, I think, revise the position description to match what works for
Well-
you as an admin. Does that work?
That works for me,
Okay.
but, you know, I don't want, if you guys want to hire somebody to do the whole kit and caboodle,
I don't,
I'm cool with that. It's up to you guys.
I'm perfectly content, I think, keeping you as an administrator and then bookkeeping being more of a dedicated function, potentially easier contract. And I saw that on the agenda as well. So I'll defer any discussion on that, and please kindly disregard all discussion then about a position description needing to be advertised or anything like that.
okay, for the admin.
Yep,
Okay,
that's entirely unnecessary.
okay.
Next item is super admin on the Google Workspace. I don't have ability to edit users on Google Workspace. Do you?
She doesn't know.
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
I've reached out to Mitsu to ask, hey, can you change these things? I've not received a response. I'm gonna poke her once more. If I
Okay.
don't get an answer,
Okay.
I'm gonna call Google and we're gonna solve it that way, because Google Workspace is set up where there is at least one recovery method for the organization to take over. There's always the possibility of turnover, and they're knowledgeable of that potential.
Is there, so at present, no one has access to the admin account?
So
To
there's
the-
like,
Sorry, the account called admin.
correct. So admin at Golden Gate Fire is currently unstaffed, unmanned. Contact still forwards. So emails that go to contact to Golden Gate Fire forward appropriately to Devin, myself. But other than that, admin is a dead letter office right now. So there is some time sensitivity to trying to get that solved.
Yes.
We still do have a limited degree of administrative right to edit some things in Google, but we don't have that override access, force a password reset, et cetera, kind of thing.
I don't want to belabor like why that's important that we get a hold of it as quickly as possible. I'm sure you're aware.
Yep.
Do you need any support or anything in trying to get the access restored?
Not at the moment. I think when I reach out to Google and figure out what they're going to ask as a part of that reset, I'll communicate if that presents any obstacles.
Okay.
At the moment, I just genuinely have no idea what Google's going to ask me,
Okay.
because I'm used to like password reset goes to my other email, it goes to my other email. I have 16 email addresses, so I'm going to find it somehow.
This came up when I
This is
was
not
trying
the
to get
case.
the email list, and Sheila said she put me on as admin, but I never
Let's try
was
and
able to find any instructions or anything, so. let me know.
let's try and see if you two might just connect on a computer and Deb logs in, sees if she got that access changed to her or not.
Let's do, so we can do that tonight, probably before we
Okay.
let's see about solving that.
Okay.
That'd be a great box to check.
Yeah.
Just feel real good to do that. Next line item is Asana. We've completed the trial period of it. My recommendation is to purchase a subscription at $11 a month per seat. 9 licenses are going to be what are required at the moment. As we add board members, we incrementally add licenses. Annual cost then is $1,186.92. As that is over a threshold where I'm comfortable just making the expenditure without permission. Request your approval and discussion. I'm agnostic, one way or the other. I think we can use it
Oh,
as in a free mode. There is it's diminished functionality though. So we lose some of the ability and some of the timeline and basically Gantt chart project management tools. those are far less critical than the ability to manage tasks and to watch, assign, and move tasks around the board. We can still function for free, but I think this probably adds some value.
Okay.
But again, I'm absolutely flexible and it's your money.
Just as a way of
It's
explanation.
our money.
Our money. Way of
Your-
explanation. Julie, it's called Asana.
Project management software.
Yeah.
It allows
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
board, sorry,
No, please, you can explain it better.
it allows the board to go in and see what projects are going on by, let's say Chris is working on a project. They can go in and see a lot of what he's doing, what he's accomplished, and the same with each other. They can go in and see what they're doing, what they've accomplished, what needs to be done. He can automatically request that Niffy do something on a particular project. It's a wonderful communication tool.
It's the mother of all to-do lists. So the origin is in manufacturing and kind of product development, and project management is you use Post-it notes on a big whiteboard and go, this item starts in the ideas list, then it moves into the development list, and then it moves into the doing and done. So we are managing tasks in real time. I can assign tasks to specific people. So as we see on the whiteboard, we've got our punch list of things that we've been discussing purchasing that we haven't erased for a while. These are things that show up in assignments to individual officers. So I can go, hey, Nate, please pull together, this ask once you're ready and pull it together. So it's a way that we're managing all the balls in the air, paying attention to everything all at once. Because if I had to just use a paper to-do list, I'd both run out of paper and lose it at some point in time.
I'd like to add though that I have not been able to log in Asana. I've had a hard time with it. I wasn't the only one having a hard time with it. Other board members said the same. I've yet to really make it functional for me.
Okay.
So if we're gonna be going forward, I'll probably need a half an hour of someone to show me something, because I just click around and nothing happens.
So just briefly, so one addressing that is, what is our succession planning risk or continuity risk if we're adding another platform and we have people coming and going that are serving on this? And also briefly, what's the delta in the capability that Asana has versus using the native tools that are in the Google Workspace that we're already paying for?
Okay. I think it does a better job handling succession planning than most options that we have right now. Mostly because everything remains archived and available on the platform, even if it's marked complete as and archived and hidden. So there's the ability to see what's going on and what has happened in the past.
Does Google not do that?
It's so hard to find things.
So my experience with using tasks in Google is it's very good for individual
Do we
to-do
need to
lists.
answer that?
Ryan, can you take that? It's somewhere, yeah, it's
Somewhere.
Follow the ring.
this is your Fire One JPR. You got your pen and paper? So that's a joke, because one of the legitimate certification requirements for firefighter one, one of the tests is be able to answer the phone successfully and take a message, because you'd be surprised who picks up the phone at a fire station, it's like, hi. It's like, no, this is a fire station, you answer the phone like a professional. So that is a test. I wish I was kidding. So I think the delta between the Google platform and the task tracking in Google, I think it's pretty significant, with the ability to both assign, manage due dates, move due dates around, and build dependencies and relationships. So it's not quite the level of Microsoft Project with finish, start, finish, end, and being really elegant with building a long form Gantt chart. This gets us 95% of the way there to watch as things change. That said, I believe most of that functionality is still present without paying for it. So we can remain in the freeware mode. And as soon as we bump into the limits where it was nice that we could do that, that's an opportunity then I think to consider them.
You're kind of selling us on the free mode, right?
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too.
I'm just saying outside of, so for me, it's a couple questions. Is it $1,200 better to go from free to the premium? Is it, and again, when I talk about that continuity risk, is every time you add a new login that someone has to track and you have 4 different people with it, like, look what we're doing this right now. And we can't get into QuickBooks. We cannot get into our bank accounts. We cannot get into Google. And so I just want to make sure that we have good continuity planning before we add another item.
Certainly.
I want to correct you. We can't get into the bank accounts. It just takes
Well,
time.
right. I mean, it took, that's
Took a
the
while
time and the
because
effort.
Everybody's busy at the
Mhm.
banks, and then there's a delay, intentional it seems,
Mhm.
but we can get in. Bank accounts are not a problem.
Right.
So-
I'm just saying, like, even when we had an orderly transition, it took 2 months for me to get into the Google
Yeah.
account.
Right.
Now we add another platform. I'm not opposed to
Right.
this. I love productivity tools. I'm a productivity nerd. I love
Does complicate
project
things.
managers. I'm like all of that. So, but
I think
if you have a tool that makes it so that we cannot be productive, I worry about that.
certainly, I think the other potential benefit that can show up, I think there's an SSO option with Google.
Okay.
So your
that would
Google
be good.
login
What does that
can
mean?
be
Single
that
sign-on.
login. So when you go to the sign-in screen, I think we can do a
SSO.
single
Single
sign-on.
sign-on.
I think we can do a little bit of modification or just hit sign in with Google.
Okay.
When you see that there, just push sign in with Google and it's exactly the same login.
Okay.
So I think we mitigate some of that risk and I think we are solving more problems than we create. I don't think we solve $1,200 more of problem than we have. Unless we find those limits. And I'm not confident we'll find those limits in at least the short term.
Could we go another month when it's free? Is that what you're saying? Or we do
No,
have
I
to
think
pay now?
it's a tiered option. So there's a $0 option, an $11 a month option, and a $24 a month option per seat.
Mhm.
So we can continue with the zero a seat
another
option.
month, or-
It just reduces the functionality a bit.
What do you recommend?
You know, I think the free option is probably okay. As we discuss it and mention it, the ability that we gain doesn't seem that dramatic. And I think there's no shame in revisiting this next month.
That's what I was gonna say.
Boy, I really like X. So if we find that, I'll let you know. In the meantime, I think I'm comfortable not spending any money.
Okay.
We don't need a motion on this, do we? We're fine just the way it is.
Do nothing is
Okay.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a question.
sure.
How familiar are you with this platform?
I've been using it for us since September 3rd or 4th, because I panicked and realized I needed to put together a long to-do list. I use a similar platform called Trello at work, because that's what's been officially sanctioned by the governor's office of information technology and whatever. So I have to use, that's my only option there. They're the same platform functionally, just different companies making it. Slightly different variations. So I'm relatively familiar with it. It is a fairly comfortable user environment for a 30-year-old, I guess. I'll own
And
that.
it's- Yeah.
I just wanted to say, yeah, for the 30-year-old and even for Mr. Young Nifty here, but someone with my gray hair and so
I have
forth.
gray
Whoa,
It's-
whoa, whoa,
it's-
wait.
Who's gonna step out
I
of
saw
the
one
door?
turning gray.
We have a couple more people coming onto this board pretty soon. Some of them might be someone such as myself who's got some gray hairs and so it's wonderful for you to be able to use it, but it's gonna be a learning curve. A
It-
high learning curve potentially for your future board members. I'm
And
just
that's
saying.
the
yeah.
continuity risk that I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Is
Exactly.
there's a lot to learn fast.
It's relatively easy to navigate through. Julie and I sat together.
Have you done it now?
Yeah, Julie and I sat
Oh.
together. It's got like a dashboard and everything. What I like about it is it's compartmentalized for the firefighters, for the tasks.
Should we
And
move on? We've kind of beat this one to death. I think
Okay.
the free one is.
Okay.
if I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me.
I did include just a table of kind of what each software platform does, so that we know what's there and kind of what we have in the report.
This is in the chief's report, which you can find at the website and print it out, and look at it.
I did not get all the attachments uploaded, but the chief's report is on the
Okay.
website.
We have 90 incidents according to the CAD records through yesterday. That is now 91 incidents as of now. I ran exactly the same reports that I ran last month. So we've got just slice 1. Now we have slice 2 to see what changes have occurred. Nothing has, the trajectory of anything hasn't changed in particular. Balance of calls by area is roughly the same. We're transitioning into the winter, so our call volume is going to shift away from the parks and more towards everything else. Other than that, our personnel per call remains concerning, including incidents with 0 responders from Golden Gate during a weekday. The incident was able to be covered with mutual aid resources, and those mutual aid resources were canceled by the initially arriving medical personnel who routinely beat us to scenes anyway, simply because they just weren't necessary.
Oh, okay.
We don't need more people showing up to
Right.
certain scenes where we
Okay.
don't need more people there. So that's the notes on kind of call stats and the performance of the agency so far. To address your question, Steve, that I got via email, looking
That's a question about the incident numbers.
yes, so the balance between auto aid, mutual
Let me
aid.
say what my question
Please.
was. There's been a big increase in the number of incidents since I was on the board last. And I had heard from Damian DeFeo that we were including some incidents from surrounding districts. And I asked Chris, are we including, because we're like 25% up or even more, which is a fairly significant increase.
So attachment number 2, the incident statistics. So the 87 incidents that are included in this report, it's only reports that have been completed and approved. 87 incidents, 52 EMS, 35 fire. Of those incidents, we gave aid in 18 cases. So that was
Outside the district.
That's correct. So be it Timberline, Fairmount, anyone requesting us by either mutual or automatic aid, that was 18 of those 87.
And that's what I wanted to bring attention to.
We received aid in 17 cases. So it's
But we still counted those.
correct.
So when I'm just saying there is a bookkeeping difference than 5 years ago, or maybe even 2 years ago. I don't know when it changed, but there's a record keeping.
I don't actually think the record keeping has changed. We still count every time the agency is requested. Dispatch calls us, that creates a report. I think the change was the more robust automatic aid and mutual aid agreements that exist. So with the introduction of the kind of broader automatic aid districts, primarily on the eastern or the western frontier of the district, with those automatic aid areas, we go on more incidents that are close to the line. So prior to the board meeting last month, that was an automatic aid incident on Smith Hill Road that we went to. We went, I was there, Brian was there, Sam was there. Legitimate call. So that counts as an incident responded to as aid given.
Smith Hill Road, I
Yeah.
can't remember where
That
that
was
is.
the last meeting.
It's right on the other side of the Gilpin County.
Came in right at the beginning. of the
If you
meeting.
go down the end of.
My only point is, in the old days, I'm pretty sure we just counted incidents that happened in our district.
So
Now, maybe that was really long time ago, because I'm really old.
and
Can I just ask,
Yes.
like, you're making this distinction. I just want to know why does it matter?
Because there is an impression that accidents have gone up, but yet it's the method we're counting them, possibly due to auto aid and our further reach due to auto aid. When in fact, I don't want to skew the figures and make it seem to everybody in the room that we have a lot more incidents. We do, but because we're counting further out.
If the incident report, as Chris has run it,
There's nothing else I want to say.
okay, yeah, okay.
That's the way they keep records now. That's how they keep records, but
But as long as the incident report is indicating that there are aid reports or aid incidents, does that help to make that clear for people?
my concern, I think, is if the figures were used to represent, we need a tax hike because we have more incidents, when in fact, it's not quite that simple. And I don't want these figures to be misused. That's
Okay, well, I think we can make it clear, like, what figures we're using. And when it comes to taxes, you know, as you can see, it's almost a wash in the aid that we're given versus receiving. And we need to be able to support our neighbors
Well, I'm not saying we shouldn't.
outside the district. And
We always have.
so.
I think the roughly 50-50 balance of aid given, aid received is, it feels like it's on par with how other agencies are working. It doesn't feel like we're at a considerable disadvantage where we're accepting more aid than we're giving. But it is important to caveat that those are calls received, not personnel on scene, time on scene, or any kind of measured net effectiveness. That is worth caveating that many of those calls where it is aid given only because we were requested, we were canceled either minutes after leaving the station or even prior to leaving the station. So many of those was we create the incident because we created the incident, but we found that we were not needed and we were informed that we were not needed. That is a dispatching quirk that exists. The distinction between Gilpin County receives the 911 call, they create the call for Timberline, and they get on the phone with Jefferson County, explain what's going on. That takes maybe 5 minutes. Then Jefferson County takes another 90 seconds to create the call for us. It's very different when we have, for example, an automatic aid call at White Ranch, where it is the dispatcher is reading Paramount Fire, Golden Gate Fire, Company 32, respond to an injured hiker. We're paged at exactly the same time for anything in Jefferson County. Anything where it's over the line in Gilpin County, or we're receiving aid from Gilpin County, there is a delay. So that does create many of those incidents. If we dive into the more detailed statistics, the end case is a 611 unit canceled prior to arrival, or no incident here, or otherwise canceled kind of disposition. Yes, go ahead.
This question may be 2 parts. First is we received aid from our funds from Marshall Fire. Does that mean we gave aid, therefore we were compensated for that?
Yeah.
And then with these local mutual aid agreements, are we paying and receiving?
No. So that's so Marshall was not a mutual aid incident. That's more classified as a deployment or a disaster response. So for example, if we got the call to go to Florida for some reason in response to Hurricane Ian or to a major wildland fire on the other side of the state or anything like that, that goes through a federal resource management system, then to the state resource management system, and they call us. Those resources are on the clock. Mutual aid incidents are by agreement between the two agencies, not on the clock. Generally, that's the first 24 hours of any incident response. So if we have a major fire, for example, in our district, everyone is responding to us and covering on a mutual aid basis, generally for that first operational period. Once it transitions to a type 3 incident management team, or we start to escalate the management of the incident, transition it to a higher level of organization, that's generally when we transition then from, this is no longer mutual aid, everyone is now on the clock. We're billing for time, we get paid for trucks, we get paid for people, and we get paid for specialized equipment. So because I bring a med bag on the fire truck, that pays a certain amount. Because I bring this type of truck, it pays a certain amount. And because our individual certifications are at X level, we get X dollars an hour based on an existing cooperator resource rate form that exists with and that is on file with the state of Colorado. So it's a very robust process so that when we get any kind of incident, there's a very orderly flow chart for how resources get ordered and managed beyond the initial 24 hours of complete and total chaos, where it's send me everything and the dispatch center figures it out and sends us whatever they can. Does that answer your question? I went a little deep, but it's a lot of fun. I like this stuff. So.
Thank you.
All right. Otherwise in operations, SOG updates continue. We sent the draft out. Those are in effect. More coming. There was one noted to include fleet accident procedures. There's a great note that is definitely going in the next batch.
What is the SOG?
Standard operating guidelines. So we use standard operating guidelines as opposed to procedures, because a guideline is flexible. And if, for example, someone has a good idea in the field, I don't want them to be hampered by a document I wrote sitting in the comfort of my own home. I want them to be able to make an intelligent choice out there so that everything's a guideline. A couple times I use the word shall, but it's pretty rare. You shall wear an SCBA going into a fire. It's like, there's no discussion on that.
Does the guideline beget the procedure itself?
Yes, they're the same thing. It's just
You can
guidelines.
flow it. You could say, we have this procedure to satisfy the requirements or the statements in the guideline of the.
Not quite. So they're general, you either have an SOP or an SOG. And it's just a distinction in how you're calling the document, and how you phrase things. These are SOGs. We don't have any SOPs. We do have a policy manual that is the higher level governance of members shall be of good moral character and shall not do X, Y, Z on duty and that sort of thing. These are more, I'm giving you operational direction on a traffic incident. You need to wear a traffic vest and you should close the road by doing it the following way. It's tactical advice that I can both train from and that I can disseminate to everyone in advance as we try and do as much thinking before we get there as we can.
So did I hear it right? You don't have any standard operating procedures?
Correct. They're all standard operating guidelines. And that is an industry standard around the area. Either people call them SOGs wholesale, or they write the language so there's a minimum number of shall statements and everything is instead of should statement. Even if it's called a procedure, it's mostly should statements. So in effect, they're the same exact thing. It's a list of, for this incident, think about the following things, do the following things, and consider the following things. Personnel, we have 17, 2 on leave, 3 pending orientation prior to going online. I have circulated an advertisement with local fire chiefs, our Facebook page, and a few other ways for a resident firefighter here at Station 82. I have received positive feedback from fire chiefs around the area that they're like, totally happy to help. It sounds like a great opportunity. I'm pushing it out to all my guys. I received feedback on the Facebook page from at least one prospective volunteer, just wholesale who wants to volunteer. It's like, excellent. Here's the details. I didn't put a terminate date on when we need those in. It's an open application until filled. And that'll just be as soon as we find them, we'll follow the interview process, onboarding process. I did write the description to be, we'd ideally want someone with fire experience, yes, who can come in the door and be a functional member of the crew. Simultaneously, I wrote in the flexibility where if someone is, for example, a Jeffco open space ranger or a national forest ranger, or is prior military with experience driving trucks and knows what they're doing and can learn this stuff on the fly, or if they're an EMT with Stadium Medical, they don't have their fire certs yet, but they can drive, they can function, they have an EMT license. I want them to at least think about it and consider it, because I think that's a potentially valuable source of people that we want to try and hit. So wide net, nothing has landed in the net yet 100%, but we'll see how that
And
goes.
are we only looking locally, or are we, are there boards or other advertising spots that are national in reach?
So I've pushed it to our local fire chiefs, our Facebook page, then it got shared by the Colorado Firefighters Facebook group. So there's been some circulation around the area among the fire circles. Usually that's a pretty good way to get stuff done. If that doesn't work, there's the Colorado Fire Training Officers email list, which is kind of the way to advertise things around the state. And then it'll just be persistence and keeping it open and keeping it available.
My question stems from, I was assuming that our former chief was already doing those things and not getting results. Okay, don't answer that question. Never mind. Okay.
So are you on the right track, Chris?
I think we're doing what we need to do to try and bring on this industry, a resident for this station, and I'll update as we have progress.
Okay. All right.
Training, no updates, continuing that calendar-based cycle and shift. Planning and life safety. I've made initial contact with Chief Ipatsenko at Paramount Fire. Haven't received formal like, hey, we're good, or no, we're not interested. It's just we'll continue the discussion. So I unfortunately have no additional updates beyond we've made contact and shook hands via email. So this is going to be a little while, I think, to get that going, which is unfortunate. I do have several ISO letters that need to go out. Those will go out either tomorrow or over the weekend, because I know folks need that for their insurance, and those are pressing. Yeah. I don't even know what ISO stands for. It's like-
Insurance Service Organization.
Yeah. It's not International Standards Organization.
That's
but
what
other than
that's what
that-
ISO means to me.
Yeah,
It's what keeps your insurance.
that's right. It's the protection classifications with the insurance companies.
State Farm does not work.
Yeah, not everyone cares, but yeah, some people do. And we have got asks from insurance agents to reply to that. So I'm working on that. Logistics, that's a big section. I've started to make contact with fire truck vendors to figure out quotes and to start that planning process, because I can't make a financial plan if I don't know how much we need to think about spending. SVI has been a great company to start to work with. Also started to work with Front Range Fire Apparatus, both the reliable SVI manufactures trucks out of Fort Collins. They replied that they even have a refurbishment group that could be doing a remount or something like that. And they'll get us quotes for remount as well as a new apparatus purchase as a Type 6.
You say a remount or a refit, is that for our existing
Yep,
apparatus?
so we take the skid unit and potentially the boxes off the back of it, and keep that, get rid of the 2005 Ford part of it, and swap in a whatever year, whatever we can work with that makes sense, as long as it's not a 2005, 2006 Ford.
I have a 2005 Ford. It plows
Yeah.
my driveway just fine.
It's like, it's just that truck, and other trucks have had some real problems. So we're starting that process. I'm pretty optimistic as we work with these vendors, but unfortunately I don't have a detailed answer yet. Continuing with fleet, I've started to look at, and I've started soliciting donations really from construction companies for if they have new-ish but old-ish vehicles that they're looking to donate. It's near the end of the year. It's a great time to start thinking about a tax write-off. Big construction company, maybe you'd like to give us a truck. These are options that I floated with one company, and I plan on continuing with a few others just as casual. Maybe we can get a truck for free. Everything's possible if we try. I'm not optimistic, but I'm gonna try. There, in the more realistic world of possibilities, there's the ability to procure a secondhand vehicle from a neighboring agency, most likely either state patrol, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, one of those agencies. We're getting near the end of the year. I'm not sure when they would be up for sale. There are auctions with the state fleet all the time. There is the question of maybe something can come up really fast where we have the need for immediate action. I've asked in the report for authority to purchase a vehicle if the price is less than $8,000 from a neighboring agency. I request your consideration on that matter. And I can continue with the rest of the report if we want to discuss that later, but I'm making the ask in this part of the report.
And this would be an additional personal truck.
So intended to be a light rescue to
Oh,
base
okay.
out of this station. Because right now, everything in that apparatus bay has air brakes.
Chris, isn't that in our updated budget for 2023? Didn't we discuss that in
Correct.
the evening?
It is something we discussed, but I want to be able to move fast if the opportunity arises. If I email Jeffco Sheriff's Office and they say, yeah, you want to buy a truck right now? X dollars, call me tomorrow if you want.
So
it.
let me add to that. Paul Trost and Chris and I had dinner and worked on the budget for about
Dave,
3 hours one night. Not Paul Charles, I mean David Kennard, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And we put that in the budget
Okay.
and it's in the proposed budget, which is $5,000 over the amount of revenue we forecast. But we have a lot of money in the bank. That's not a whole lot considering we have a $235,000 budget and $230,000 worth of prospective income.
I have a question.
Please.
One of the issues that we face is drivability, training on our trucks. This would be a light,
Forerunner or expedition.
right, okay, so
That thing.
any firefighter could
Correct.
drive it,
Yep. And it's
So-
small, lighter, more maneuverable,
but it
just
would
like
be
the enemy.
equipped.
Yep.
Okay, that would solve one of those problems, because one of the issues was the newer firefighters, it takes 100 hours or something to train them on some of these fire trucks, and
Do
they
we
have to wait for somebody to drive them to the fire. Okay,
Do we have a place to keep it, Chris?
You know, I think it would be a bit of shuffling around this station. The big thing is that rig wouldn't carry water. So its need to be indoors is far less critical.
So you can just plug it in.
Yep, it's that easy. It would presumably carry, and I have a list of what it would take to handle. As I look at our call volume, something like 60% of our calls, that apparatus could handle it. Because 60% of our calls are EMS or rescues. And that's what that apparatus would be there for, is
Okay.
EMS and rescue.
So
Is vandalism a problem? Whatever.
Hasn't been up here.
Is this filling a gap that has previously been identified, or is it replacing something that's already in the fleet?
It is, it's adding on, but filling what is a bit of a gap. Right now, this station has no vehicles that can be driven by a firefighter at an entry level. The way that it's been mitigated in the past is they stop at station 3, pick up the brush truck from there and bring that here to be with them when they shift. So they have an apparatus that can respond as a light duty vehicle. That does take that rig out of service for anyone coming in from town who would then be using that to respond in the other direction.
The other question I would ask along those lines is if we're going to start having, our newer firefighters driving this vehicle when they're responding to calls, are we missing out on an opportunity for them to get the hours that they need on the other apparatus?
I don't think so. Principally because those other apparatus, you need direct supervision for those hours. It's not a accrue the hours on your own, it's accrue the hours with an officer riding right seat. So you don't get in trouble with the air brakes and either inadvertently lock up the spring brakes or do something that you shouldn't do with those kind of vehicles. Want to make it easy and simultaneously be a truck that can also drive into most of the parks in the area and be an easy access solution for problems.
What's the weight difference between what you're proposing and the brush trucks?
A few thousand pounds.
A considerable weight difference and size.
A brush truck carries between 250 to 500 gallons of water,
That's
plus
a
a
huge
pump,
difference.
plus all that equipment.
So that is
Minus
obviously
that.
much easier to drive.
Yep.
And that's what's key. I believe it's a quick response vehicle. And we discussed it at the budget meeting.
I mean, the other question I just have is if we are allocating that 8,000 to this vehicle, what are we missing out on with our existing fleet or buying or replacing or upgrading everything else? I know that you're saying, hey, we're putting more money towards this specific vehicle. I think I'm convinced on the need and the good of it, but I'm just like, so my wife wanted to fly to Utah to see her sister-in-law last week.
Sure.
And I was like, we're gonna have to spend $2,000 in 2 weeks to go to see my whole family in Columbus. I don't want to spend that $500 going to Salt Lake. So I stayed at home.
Sure. So I think the potential risk, the potential downfall with this is these are funds that wouldn't go towards a type 6 remount or a new type 6. If
That's
I
a
had
brush truck, a type
correct.
6.
So if I had my ideal world, I'd have another type 6 brush truck at this station and not a rescue. Because having 3 brush trucks, the ability to deploy one out of district to make money during the summer seems like an advantageous long-term business option. A new brush truck is $100,000. if I get $8,000 today, I can run 60% of our department's calls with that rig that any member can drive. So there's a potential long-term shortfall, but simultaneously, I think the rapid term benefits are pretty significant.
It's an order of magnitude. I do life cycle analysis on everything. It's like, yeah, you bought a cheap air conditioner and it costs you 10 times more over the life.
This is
So,
are we buying Harbor Freight tools or buying
Yeah.
Snap-on? I think we're gonna buy Ryobi.
okay, all right.
Chris, I thought we had discussed a substantially larger amount, like
Correct.
$20,000.
20,000 is in the budget for next year.
Mhm.
I'm requesting limited authority to act immediately
Got it.
on not to exceed $8,000.
Do you have a lead from Jeffco Sheriff or anything?
Nope. I
This
just
is
want to
entirely-
be able to act
okay.
on it if we get that.
Does this include paint? Because we're gonna have to, it's gonna be black and white if we get it from the sheriff's department.
Yep.
So we probably would want to paint it,
Yep.
and that's gonna be another couple grand.
Yep.
And it's worth it, in my opinion.
And we have,
We'll go to.
we have light bars, we have some of that equipment. If it doesn't come with that equipment, these are all discussion items. And State Fleet also has opportunities to, like, maybe a used SUV from CDOT or a used SUV from any other part of state government is another opportunity. So, but the big thing is, as Julie's mentioning, money talks. If I can walk into the room and go, so you have a surplus truck.
And they've depreciated it.
Exactly. It's like, you want to get rid of it, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, we'll start at 4 and see what we can do.
Negotiate.
I'm ready to make a motion. Or you want to make the motion?
I would make a motion to, let me just see the text of what you asked for.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. I make a motion to give the chief authority to purchase a vehicle if one becomes available at a price less than $8,000 from a neighboring agency.
Update that, right. I second that motion.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I'll see what I can do. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Cool.
In other spending of money, I'm working with.
You're all done.
Yeah.
Credit cards coming.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So I'm working to look at procuring another portable radio or 2 or 3. Both leveraging grants and existing budget that hasn't been spent this year. We haven't done any radio upgrades this year, at least the budget showed that is underspent. This model of radio is actually phasing out of life cycle. So that means that they're getting really cheap right now. So we may be able to get 1 or 2 instead of just maybe 1 with the budget amount that we have. I'm getting quotes right now, working on it. Simultaneously, the newer, greater, better model is going to be a great opportunity for a Firehouse Subs Foundation grant request. So once I get the quote for that, they want to fund things between $15,000 and $30,000. 6 radios is somewhere around $18,000, $20,000. No match required. So they'll just buy the radios for us and here you go.
Go for it.
So I'm going to go for it. And once I have the quotes, I want to let you know we're working on it.
Okay.
Good.
Additionally, there's the volunteer fire assistance grant that is open right now. Officers and I are working to figure out kind of what makes sense for that. That is a 50-50 grant match. So it's whatever I can do to stretch the budget for either PPE or something to that effect. So that's a state and federal government funding only for rural departments. So because we have fewer than 10,000 residents, it's really from the Forest Service to fund everyone who comes to big wildfires to play with them. This is money that we can use for that.
Have you seen these USDA grants?
I've seen them to a limited extent, not to the same, I think, as we're looking at prior. This is a separate through State Division of Fires who's administering this one for and on the behalf of USDA Forest Service.
Okay. I'll just send you a link to some of the stuff I
Please
was
do.
looking at, whereas it would help funding structures in communities that are in rural areas and we count. But I didn't know if there was like an income restriction on that as well for the community or something,
Yeah.
but it was a rural grant from the USDA. So
Yeah, sounds like a great opportunity. And worth mentioning, I just have my kind of what looks like is happening in the next 3 months. At the bottom of the report. Budget is the #1 line item. I'm gonna strike hiring new administrator. literally focus more on bookkeeping and managing finances. Applications and interviews for chief is gonna be the other big objective for the next 3 months. We do need to have an annual party for our firefighters because we need to support them. I want to get all the SOGs done by the end of those 3 months, and then also have a draft, a fleet replacement plan in your hands, as well as a handful of strategic concepts in draft form in your hands as well. So ideas that have been floating around that I'm finally putting pen to paper on, because the dust is clear enough that I can see a little ways out.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Please.
I pulled up the district property search for Jefferson County.
Mhm.
And when I used to I pulled it up through the past couple of years, we were at that 450 mark. I recently pulled it up and it shows us jumping to like 620.
Is
Have
that the
you
number of residences that you're?
properties,
Parcels or addresses?
properties?
Okay, so I guess parcel count then, yeah.
Is that, because like I said, I was
Doesn't mean
pulling it
there's
up
something
before
wrong.
and it kind of matched what we have seen, which was that 450 mark. But when I recently pulled it up again, which I know Jeffco is behind on their entries. So it kind of jumped within a couple of months, which I think is an entry issue, from that 450 area to like 625. And I was wondering if that was something that we need to keep an eye on, because that's a big jump.
It's probably something good to keep an eye on a longer term basis and to think about, is that gonna, if the number of parcels changes, how does that impact our net valuation and therefore a likely mill levy? I also think of it, hey, we got more addresses, we got more people moving in. Maybe they're people that I can put on fire trucks.
I don't know, is there a possibility you maybe analyze that wrong, because 150 increase is quite a bit.
Well, I've always pulled it up the same way. So I'm kind of just going according to how I pulled it up before versus how I pull it up now.
Call the assessor, they'll tell you.
Yeah,
Ask this question of the assessor.
That's a good
Suggest
question.
that there's a heck of a lot of subdividing going on that we all are not aware of.
And we
in our-
would be aware of it.
Yeah.
At least I know certain people in this room who would be aware of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, we would know.
35 acres, it's not.
But I've also seen over the years is, we've been sending out these lists, you know, in email or letters, et cetera, to the community. And it's always been 450 for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
9 years. I have not seen an increase, even though we've heard there's 15 bills this year, there's 16 bills this, you know, we've been dealing with subdivisions. So I kind of tend to agree that they have not been up on their data and entering it into the system, because to me, staying at 450 for the last 8 years doesn't make any sense.
They have an excuse for the last 2 years, though.
yes,
Yeah.
and I agree. I agree they do have an excuse. And the only reason I knew about them being so far behind was because when I got my title for my house, they explained to me that it wouldn't show up for a number of months. It took like 6 months for it to show up. So-
Julie, would you call the assessor and ask that question?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're,
you have
what's the
time, I appreciate
question? It would be great. It'd be
I
easy
will.
to do. They'd probably call you back and give you an answer.
I can do that.
Saves me trying to learn how to use
Yeah.
GIS again.
Moving on to
What's next?
community
Community organizations.
organizations. Do we want the auxiliary to go first with
Yes.
some amazing, oh, I'm sorry, Susan.
Oh, well, first, we sent out a donation letter request this year, and we have well over 500 people, 500 addresses on the list, and I can let you know how many that was, but I can't remember right now. It was more than in
450,
previous
yeah,
years, so
okay.
we can let you know. And what is your Facebook page called?
It's just Golden Gate Fire Protection District is the official page.
Okay, thanks.
No air quotes. It is the official page of the department.
Okay.
Who's running that right now? by the
I
way?
am.
Okay. all right.
Myself and Sam have added
Okay,
on it,
alright.
so we've been posting.
Yeah.
Anything you see
Nice-
is one of
Nice
us.
to see postings.
Trying.
Yay.
Mary,
I have some comments, but we'll wait till we
Please,
get to
yeah.
that.
Mary.
Yep, so we had a pig roast.
Yay.
And we believe it was quite successful considering we hadn't had one for 3 years. Our plate count was down some, but we still were able to bring in through the auctions and the boot and the plates over $12,000.
Great.
And some money is still coming in. So we were able
Oh,
to
that's
help
just
with,
great.
That's for you.
Yeah.
Firefighter gear that is needed and so forth. We'll be ready when their requests come through.
That's great.
So.
Thank you.
So thank you for everybody's,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for everybody's, cooperation and
You
participation.
guys just worked so hard. It was so
It was
much
good.
fun.
We appreciated that so many people came and everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves and that was great. That was great for us to
Thank you
see.
so much.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Somebody had also mentioned the timing of this one was kind of really good because we had all the leaf peepers coming in up and down.
Yeah, the boots. The boots did really well.
It was more than that. They were closing US 6 and Quick Creek Canyon,
Yes.
diverting everybody.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
I'll take it.
awesome. Yeah, I saw
See, that
somebody.
says you're welcome. I didn't organize it.
This meeting is being recorded.
It's like, I don't even work in that part of the agency.
Yeah,
Did they?
We were especially late this year because of scheduling for, early on in the year, the scheduling seemed to be needed us to move it to later. We would probably be doing it the third weekend of September next year. That has been our traditional
Okay.
date. And we'll probably try to go back to that because in some ways for us,
It's easier.
it
Yeah.
worked better for that third weekend of September. So
Whatever
that's
you
what we
want.
think it will be.
Whatever you want. Terry in the Grange.
Yeah, we got Starlink. I just have to find somebody agile enough to crawl up on our roof and hook it up for me because I'm not doing it. We have a community brunch coming on Sunday.
This Sunday.
Yeah, this
Yes.
Sunday, 10 to 1. Please join us. It's free. I am.
Delicious.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take on the Firewise application piece. I've already talked a couple weeks ago. I got kind of stalled, but it's on my to-do list next week. There's a deadline, I think, the 3rd week of October, but I'll confirm that. We're trying, we're trying. There's a little bit of variables that have happened, so. The other thing, the trash.
Yeah.
We had, Western Disposal showed up with the pig roast, and it was wonderful because they gave us a free dumpster for the week at the Grange for the pig roast, 2 one-year subscriptions to trash pickup, and a $500 check, and he has been amazing. We did reach out to Waste Management. They are canceling all of the trash services in Golden
Even
Gate.
commercial.
Residential, no,
Oh.
residential. And so Western Disposal's company, the range of we believe is safe. We talked to them extensively on the phone. They're leaving the Grange Fire Department trash alone. I don't know why, because we're the only commercial piece. They go by
Yeah.
address. And so we are the only commercial property in the district that has, that.
May I add,
Yeah. Mhm.
we have a 3 cubic yard dumpster on my road and I keep inquiring. I don't think they're pulling that one.
No, well, they might not be. He's going through, he did an assessment, the gentleman Alex that was representing Western Disposal. We also pushed to see if we could get Douglas Mountain on there because I understand they have no trash service anymore, period. So we're working him on that. And so we'll see where it lands. Right now, Western Waste Management is okay at the Grange and the fire
Okay,
department.
so we're
Station 3.
sticking with them for
Yeah,
now.
we're sticking with them now until the end of the year, and Chris, maybe we'll talk and we'll reevaluate that. Would like to maybe shift to Western Disposal, but right now I think we're okay.
Okay.
But going forward for the community, Western Disposal should be able to accommodate you, and Douglas Mountain is a problem, and we're really trying to get them to do that for you. So there you go.
Okay,
Public comment. We've kind of been chatting along the way, but does anyone have anything they'd like to comment
Just to
on?
add to the trash thing, we use Republic Services on Dulles Mountain.
Oh.
A lot of people do. And so I think that's another company you could call upon. They've been serving our neighborhood. They've been picking up our trash for 40 years, so. Thank you. I think, we were calling.
We called them down Canyon, where but close to the Grange, and they said they wouldn't. serve us.
They've been
Your data contract's too big for them.
Well, and it may be too, because Douglas Mountain is almost
119.
Yeah.
Oh,
right
yeah,
there,
makes sense. Just
119.
pick it on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
One comment.
okay, go ahead, Charlie.
I'd like to thank you, young
Yes.
man.
Yes.
Yes, I'll second that.
Yeah.
That chief's report and your due diligence, hats off to you. Thank you, board. Thank you for all your hard work. It is very nice to know what's happening, and I love all your little.
That's how I write every document ever, so it's.
Very appreciative.
He's an engineer.
Yeah, own it.
I want to tell you, man, after 27 years and attending a number of these board meetings, it's refreshing to hear you actually talk about running this district as a business. We take revenue in, we expense out, we expect services rendered, and we want to know what's going on and what the input output is. And I'm not a software wonk, and I'll let you guys decide what tools you want. But the mere fact that this is the first time I've ever heard the idea being generated that you would share and know how you would track a project through or a certain function, just stay at it. I mean, that's why we, I think collectively have asked for a board to refresh us a little bit in our thinking about how it is that this value of the district, which CoreLogic and these guys estimated about 400 to 500 million in terms of total valuation, how they set the risk factors for us, how the insurance and the anyway. I'm running like a business.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do.
And I appreciate your reports.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, I'd like to say that, and I know this is coming up at the very next item, but I did listen to the entire planning commission recording, Steve, that you referred us to, and I appreciate that. As far as I can tell from the discussion that was recorded, all of the code changes they were discussing applied to new construction, not to existing construction. And I would just like to say that it's time for this district to start increasing the standards to which houses and fire mitigation is required for new construction, because people come up here, they build a house, and if they're not held to higher standards, then how are we ever gonna, improve our standing? Boulder County has been doing this for years and years and years. Most of the other counties have, the southern part of Jefferson County has been upping their standards as well. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, since you said that, then I need to say one more.
Go
thing,
ahead.
too. I got a red line copy of the the
Commission.
proposals, of
Yes.
the proposals.
You do that.
Well, I sent my letter. I sent him a letter and they responded to me and to Tim.
They said they received like 6 or 7.
So they,
Well,
anyhow,
I did too, but I didn't get anything back.
I got a call and I got an email.
Okay, good.
So, it exists, and I have not had the time to hardline read through
Right.
it yet.
Okay.
All right.
But they were responsive. I was pleased that they were,
Yes.
responded to us, so.
Steve, you want to
Okay,
on
that's
that?
my bait.
So we're
That very.
we're done with public, I just want to
Oh,
make
it's
sure.
public comment?
Anybody on the phone? Okay, that's the most orderly public comment I've had since being on the
You're
board.
welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Now, before anybody says anything about, do I approve, do I not approve, do I make recommendations or anything? My beef with this whole process is we were not informed. Although they say we were informed. The staff at the county during their wildfire code updates makes a big to-do that we were all told and we all agree that everybody was involved, the communities, the boards. It's not, what I see, it's not true. I have my finger on the pulse of this for 15 to 20 years. That bothers me. Because they bring a one, and pardon me, Chris, I know you're in the fire department personnel. Don't mean to be, it's not aimed at you or anybody, but the fire department personnel is very, they do not see property rights. It's just not. That's right. It's not their job, and thus they have an unbalanced input into these rules. Leslie Dahlkemper, our commissioner, is the head of the wildfire reduction task force. And there's a whole list of politicians under her, most state senators and federal senators and the governor, they're all involved in this. But they didn't involve us. And these codes are aimed at us. We are 50 square miles directly west of Denver, and yet we weren't included. I don't believe that what they're asking is going to make the difference they're looking for. They're asking for it all the wrong way. They're trying to only affect new construction, which right off the bat, I feel is unfair. How much new construction is there up here a year? How many houses are built up here a year? 8? 4? 16 are under construction, but in 1 year, how many are done? It's not many. I think they get much further along by not making these mandates and doing education. Defensible space is important, but I don't believe it should be mandated. Because what the county has said, although Meredith said the contrary, at the meeting, the county said, the staff, this is their first step towards making everybody comply, even existing homes. The reason they're not doing it now, they said this. Are you sure? Are you disagreeing?
I don't, they may say it, but it's never.
Well, I'm about to tell you, I'm about to tell you, this is the first step. However, the county attorney has said to the staff that that's a taking, and they can't do it. But for some reason, when you build a new house on your property, it's not a takings to make you do things that other people aren't required to. I don't think it's fair to have a community where 450 or whatever number of houses are up here have one set of rules, but another 4 have a totally different set of rules. I find that to be problematic. A lot of people don't. They say zoning rules have changed, but you can't call up planning and zoning and say, hey, my neighbor's got aluminum wire, fine it. You can call up planning and zoning on this and say, my neighbor has trees where he shouldn't, and you will get fined. Class 1 zoning violation. I don't like that. So I was there. I did get one commissioner listened quite intently to me. That was Tracy Kraft Fire. She even wrote me yesterday.
She's our commissioner, right?
District 1. She, I don't know if I convinced her, but she voted no, and the other 2 commissioners voted yes to approve.
On the time.
Excuse me, on the time. I'm delaying it 1 week. We had asked for a 6-month delay. They were like floored by that. Leslie, I can't speak for Leslie, but I suspect since her term is over at the end of this year, she wants to get this passed. I don't think the whole thing's well thought out. I've read the task report, the wildfire reduction task report. I've read this a million times, the same language all over. It doesn't seem to have a big difference to me from what we've already got. This caused me to go onto our website because our best document is the anchor point plan. If you haven't read the anchor point, if you haven't read the anchor point plan and you live in this community, you should, but it's gone. It's not on the website anymore. Link with a line through it. I don't know where it is.
I don't know where it is either.
And that we, it was a $30,000 or $50,000 plan prepared specifically for our district, analyzing it district by, or section by section. And it's excellent. Maps, it's a super plan and analysis. We need to find that. And you need to read that. There's more in there than you'll ever get from the county mandating what they're planning to do. I still think we should have time to review this. We were omitted from the process, and one of the reasons was, it seems to me that Commissioner Dahlkemper, who addresses our last chief by first name, worked quite closely together. I know I asked the chief over and over, our past chief. I asked our last chief over and over about specific items. One was new fire codes he's working on. His response was, to me, was, I am the one that attends the fire marshal meetings. I do not need board members getting in the middle of these meetings. I will not give out contact information for anyone that is part of these meetings. That was problematic for me. That was one of the reasons.
There's more in that.
Moving
There's more in that
forward.
letter, though.
There is more in that letter. It's right here if you want to read it.
No, I've read it a number of times.
But that was his basic attitude, and he didn't pass this information down if he had it. I do believe he did. We should have been involved, much more.
Okay.
So, no, hold on, Deb.
Go ahead.
Let me have my time, okay?
All right.
Thank you. So Tracy Kraft Tharp wrote me yesterday. That's one of that's our commissioner. The other commissioners, let me go back and forth. Well, the other commissioners disregarded the comments that whoever wrote them. They received about 7 to 8 letters. They said they were all the same. And when I say they, I'm talking mostly Commissioner Dahlkemper. She didn't like the fact that the letters said the same thing. Give us 6 months. That to her disqualified the letters. Now, the other commissioner, Tracy Clark, asked me, what are the good reasons? Give me the good reasons. I already gave her good reasons, but they want them again. Why they should give us more time. If anybody here has any great reasons, write the commissioners or give them to me. I'm going to mail her another letter tomorrow. I have written the commissioners since June about this, probably 5 times, maybe 6, and staff. I've wanted to be included in these committees. I wanted to bring another perspective. They just don't answer me. So when they say to me, sorry, you were late, you were remiss, you didn't do your job, you should have known. It's like, excuse me, I've been writing you guys since June and you just sloughed me off. So we have until Tuesday. They're voting again. It is not just, it's for new construction now. Staff admitted it's a doorway into making everybody comply with certain things with zoning violations. This is not statewide. It's pretty much just Boulder and Jefferson County that are doing this. It is not, it's only our front range communities. This is, these rules are not everywhere. So
I would recommend that people email.
I would recommend you do email them. And
I would
really,
recommend first that you go onto their website and look at the last couple of meeting minutes, the
This is-
recording.
you're not gonna go to this 600 pages,
The
both
recording.
pages, both sides.
And
You'd
you
have
can
to
make
read
your
this.
own decision from there. There's a recording.
There is, you could watch the meeting. What was your
That's what I
impression? You
meant.
watched the meeting. What was your impression, Julie? As not being me.
It is not, it's not about my impression. I'm just here to die.
I would just like to say that if you reach out to Jefferson County, and it's not a simple thing to find, but you can get listed to be notified. I get notified of all the open space meetings. They send me a text. Every meeting that occurs, I am notified about, and I have the option of attending or zooming in or whatever. So if you want to know what's going on, get on their list and you'll be notified. And if you want to send an email, I would send it to all of them, to all the commissioners, saying, please, we need
You
more
can
time
email
to
me and
consider
I'll send you
this.
their address. Here's how I think it's illogical. You know, up here, if you're building a new house, the new requirements will require you to cut all the trees down 10 feet each side of your driveway. However, let's say in my case, I have 1.5 miles of road that goes to my house. It's not my property. And then the last 100 feet's my driveway, or 150 feet. I'd have to cut the 10 feet down each side of my driveway, but all the other 1.5 miles is unaddressed. I'm not saying it should be or shouldn't be addressed, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. You have the same condition existing. They're really not gonna have a big effect on many of the existing homes. Anybody who has an existing home is, unless you pull a permit. If you pull a permit, you will then be required to maintain defensible space in perpetuity. Keep in mind, things grow. It's not like a zoning, a building standard. And to address Meredith's comment about we need better standards for building, we have the building safety, which is actually the building department. They make our standards. The fire department doesn't make standards for building. The building safety department, which Jefferson County does. And what they consider safe is what we do. And by the way, that is influenced by the people who sell wood siding.
Okay,
No,
you're well
no.
over 10 minutes.
It doesn't matter. I'm on the board and calm down. So there's a lot of factors here that just don't make sense.
Yeah, and people build houses on barrier islands too.
Yeah,
Can we get on with it?
That's right, they do.
I just came from.
And I'm not in favor of making any of this stuff mandatory. I'm in favor of education and suggestion. And if you can afford to build your house out of non-flammable materials on the outside, it's a good thing. But should you not be allowed to build if you can? I don't think so. Oh, and the other part is the zigzag of the mountain cuts. Everybody wants a wonderful low-grade driveway, but that requires tearing up the mountains now. You won't have one road going to a house. You'll have a zigzag going up to the house, or maybe two. Yeah. Anybody have a question?
You're up next with validate.
Validate.
This is our business.
No, this is on the second page.
Validate processes.
Yeah, process.
Okay, I have,
You were looking into that.
I did look into it. We can put ballot A on the ballot. Ballot A, and Linda's gonna help me out, because Linda wrote a letter, an analysis of ballot A, Linda Searcy. But today I received, or maybe it was yesterday, a reply from DOLA, Joseph McConnell, and he said, yes, we can put the issue on the ballot for vote in May. It doesn't have to be in November. He said, consult with an attorney so you get the right wording and you do it the right way.
And that would be,
So ballot A, if you
yeah,
don't know,
no, I know.
you know,
It's
but
to
some
rescind.
people in this room may not know what ballot A is. Ballot A, we gave away our rights to vote on our own taxes. It was not done in complete transparency and fairness, in my opinion. Linda, would you like to talk about this a little bit?
I actually, it's very short, so I'll go ahead and read that way.
Yeah.
It says, shall Golden Gate Fire Protection District be authorized to offset revenue losses from refunds, abatements, and changes to the percentage of actual valuation used to determine assessed valuation, in particular to offset revenues that would otherwise be lost due to the Gallagher Amendment to the Colorado Constitution, to provide fire, rescue, and emergency services by increasing its operating mill levy beginning in collection year 2020 and annually thereafter, and shall all district revenues be collected, retained, and spent, notwithstanding any limits provided by law. I have a lot of comments.
Read the
Make it
letter.
short.
No, read your letter.
Well, that's a long one.
Summarize it.
I'll summarize. First, reading that, it's a pretty vague,
By the way, it's passed in 2018.
yes, passed in
It's
2018.
only 4 years old.
Right.
Just in
There
our
were not
district.
any, public meetings held to discuss.
There were two.
No,
No,
there was a discussion at one of the fire board meetings.
No, there was a big presentation at the Grange with
You can-
multiple PowerPoints. I was there.
Was there, Terry?
There was a meeting to discuss. It was the Gallagher amendment. It wasn't ballot.
No, it was ballot.
Prove it, Meredith. You find it in the minutes.
Point of order.
Terry.
Okay.
Hold up.
Terry's saying it happened.
Hold up. Point of
But
order.
anyway, I'll continue on.
Fine.
The issues I have with the ballot amendment is there was very vague, there was no particulars in there, there was no safeguards to the taxpayers at all. Some of the comments I made at the time were that there was no sunset date, it was meant to remain in place forever. You know, there was no any sort of limitations on the amount they could raise the mill levy, the number of times they could raise the mill levy, and there was no resident input. There was not like, well, we will present how much we're gonna raise the mill levy to the residents. The residents were completely,
There was only
left
one
out.
side presented.
Pardon me?
Only one side was
Yes,
presented.
only one side.
And they is us.
Yeah.
This board can raise your taxes without your permission.
Right, there was nothing, residents were taxpayers were completely left out of the process. And let me see what other. And the final statement, let me read the final statement too, because this was very, very vague. I believe it was on purpose. It says, and shall all district revenues be collected, retained, and spent notwithstanding any limits provided by law. That was a workaround Tabor, without actually stating.
Was it work around Gallagher or
Tabor.
Tabor? Okay.
Tabor Taxpayer Bill of Rights says that, any monies collected above what they're allowed has to be returned to the taxpayers.
Actually, Tabor's in the Colorado Constitution. Did you guys know what Tabor is? Did everybody in the room?
Yeah.
All right, So just point of order real quickly. We've talked about this a bunch. You've said everything. Hold on, please. I think you've given this a couple times. We have it in minutes. We have it recorded. Linda, you brought this up.
Yeah.
You've pushed this. You've pushed this.
Yeah.
I think for the folks that are interested, they heard about it, they know it.
Okay.
We've talked about it. And I think it was more, we need to talk about what are next steps, right?
Okay.
And we've talked about, okay, well, if we're gonna have an election on this, we just got a bill for 12 grand for the last year of payments on this. But now we know we don't have to have a special election separately or wait till November or something like that. Anyone who's spoken about this, or at least what I've heard so far, has been either I want it gone, or I really don't care because I don't think the board is going to raise the taxes. I do not feel as if I've heard anyone speaking in favor of keeping it on our,
Yeah, I would just like to add that I
Yeah.
think, it was based on, trying to offset
Gallagher,
losses
yeah.
for Gallagher, and Gallagher's gone.
Right,
So
but our
that
attorney
is-
did say that even though Gallagher is gone, it's still in effect. And a board, not this present board, could choose to raise taxes. I believe it's only enough to
We
offset.
could if we want to.
We could if we wanted to. But that doesn't guarantee anything for the community. And that's one of those things about Tabor, again, is you have to vote to raise taxes. That law can be read, or ballot issue A could be read as saying, you did vote to whether or not to raise your taxes, and you delegated that authority to your fire district board. Whether or not people knew that that's what they were doing, or whether or not they agree with it now, more and more people are hearing about this and thinking about it. And so one of the key contention points that Steve brings up a lot is it passed by 2 votes, right? So in my opinion, let's look at what the cost for getting that on the existing upcoming election is, how long it takes to do that, what that process is. And in my opinion, I think we just go put it back to the vote and see what people want to do. That's what I think the next step is.
And
So-
maybe Linda and Steve can work on, you're gonna have to get the wording, you're gonna have to get there's a lot of steps to get it on the ballot.
Right.
Cool. since I'm not a lawyer and I thought last time it was totally, I was like, well, it's invalid because Gallagher's done. I'm not gonna say, well, I'm pretty sure the language should just say rescind.
Re-
But I'm sure we're gonna need to pay an attorney $100,000 to tell us that that's not actually true. So, but yeah,
So can we look,
if you would like to be on the board, there's a self-nomination form and you can run in May.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
for
I do
pushing that.
have copies of Linda's letter here for anybody that might have got 2
Yeah.
copies that you're welcome to. We're gonna move on to the, is that okay? Move on to the core request policy. I'm sorry.
The action item then is.
Well, I'm not making a motion or anything
Okay.
right now. It's more, we're gonna continue this information
But
that,
the intent is that it will be on the ballot so that it can be readdressed.
right,
Yes.
we're gonna figure out how we can do that and then we'll
To
put a
rescind
motion to rescind it, or just to allow the electorate, y'all. Well, I guess I pay taxes too.
There's only one thing about that, is if we don't have an election, because let's say we only have
If it's
2 board members to run,
Right,
2 candidates, there won't be an election.
because it has to be
Unless-
free, right?
Well, there would be no competition. There's only 2 candidates are automatically put on the board.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a
Thus, we wouldn't
It's a
spend
canceled election.
as much money for an actual election.
Okay.
Then we would have to do an election just for ballot A,
Well,
which
see-
we probably
Steve,
would
let's
do.
figure all of that. That's the.
But that we'll figure out down the road.
Okay.
The
Right.
main
Yeah.
thing here is we can vote on it in May.
Yes. Okay.
Dola said so.
Yep.
In the right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Core, thank you, yes. Core request policy that you, Niffy,
Yes, I'm gonna try and keep that really brief, and I don't think we can do anything on it just yet. It was getting Google Vault. Do you have the ability to get Google Vault?
Not as a non-super user.
Then we'll keep it on old business till the next meeting.
Appreciate it.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? We're trying, if someone is doing a core request, we're trying to comply the best we can by forwarding all of our emails. There's a better way of doing it with Google Vault. I think we discussed it at the last meeting. I don't want to belabor that. So,
all right, the website email sign up, again, that you,
I
there
think
was a little bit of confusion on that.
I just need to continue to find, there's probably a widget that I can just find, download it, put it on there. I need to connect it into our Google. Well, can you do that? Okay, all right, I'll take it up with Julie.
Yeah, I think people went on.
Sorry, Meredith,
Oh,
we on our, I'm here for all the meetings. But I forget that not everybody wants to sit through 3 hours, but I'll just give this quickly as I can. We want to be better at communicating with the community and making sure people are hearing what's going on, getting newsletters, know about meetings, etc. There used to be a function or a widget on the website that allowed you to enter your email address, get on our mailing list, and get communications. That widget no longer works, and we want to fix it. Sounds like Julie's going to help me fix that. Sorry, man.
Is that your whole discussion?
That is all that I have to say about that is I'm going to try and get this fixed. And once we have it fixed, I'll report out on that unless there's any other, well, this is information, not discussion.
Yes, I'd like to add a little bit since you're talking about the website. We pay $145 a month.
The item is website email sign up.
And we're getting nothing for it.
Okay.
We're paying 140, we never used to pay that for a website. And it's not for the domain. It's for somebody to maintain the
security.
website.
Yeah, it's for security, as I understand, but
We're getting screwed.
put it on next month's agenda?
yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're rolling over to new business.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Somebody do some research on it before you put it on the agenda. Somebody needs to look into why it was built, rather than just adding it to the agenda.
Right.
Sure. My thought would be that if we're putting it on the agenda, that we would do that research ahead of time so that
Right.
we actually have something to talk about. That's why I
It would be
didn't want to
addressed.
talk about it right now, because I have not done any of that research. So
Anything else? New business. We have 2 open seats on our board. And according to the special districts and our bylaws, we are able to appoint to those seats.
we've been looking for community members that have shown an interest in serving on the board, that have taken an interest in things going on in their community. For instance, the grass cutting around this station. Chris Creech had volunteered to try to get people together to do some outside maintenance. He's been coming to meetings. He helped with the sign. He's really shown an interest. And I would like to make a motion to appoint Chris Creech to one of the seats.
Does he
that's
accept?
vacant.
Will accept it.
Will he accept if appointed?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay. all in fa-
I'll quickly just ask, you know, do you understand kind of the commitment and everything involved, and do you want to do that?
Are you sure? Are you sure?
I do understand that this past week I've met with Deb and Steve on separate occasions for probably a total of about 3 hours, talking about time commitment, responsibility, what I would need to know and what that would mean. And I feel pretty well versed in what that requires. And I do accept that position.
You can quit at any time too.
Yeah.
Well, because he
You don't
said
want
that
it,
as
but
well,
you can.
that's what's made me say yes. Yes, I do.
Are you interested in an officer position on the board?
I need to know more about an officer position before I can commit to that piece. Again, just learning time commitment and responsibilities. Except in a position like that, I would want to make certain I can perform the duty. So before I could answer officer-based position, I just want to understand the responsibility. So I'm not opposed or in favor of that now. I'd just say I'd be willing to learn more about it.
Do you have anything that you'd like to share with, you know, the community here that's in the meeting and on the phone about kind of what you would like to do, or how you would want to serve in this board position, although it's temporary, just improvement till May?
It's only.
Yeah. I wouldn't say necessarily that there's anything that I personally want to do on the board other than just be an active part of the community. We have empty seats that were vacated, I think, in a very curious way. I don't think people were serving the community well. That would just leave the community because of issues. I don't know the depth of those issues. Maybe we'll never have to face those issues again, but I live here. This is my community now, and I need to be a part of that community. And so that's what I want to do.
Truly.
Do you know QuickBooks?
No.
I do not know QuickBooks, and
Charlotte.
Yeah. We're
getting to that.
We're covered. We're covered, Julie. Okay,
Should we vote?
Does anybody else have any other discussion? Okay.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome to the
Welcome
board.
to the board.
Oh, gives up his own chair.
Yeah. Come on, oh, come on.
I'll stand.
No, you come on, sit.
I do want to,
Lazy boy.
Right.
I do want to just make sure, okay, so we've done that. Do we have the documentation this time?
I'm sorry, what?
Do
Yeah,
we-
we have to do some things after.
Okay.
But I know what that is.
Is he effectively on the board for this
Yeah,
meeting?
supposedly we gotta be sworn in, right?
No, they
We
don't, no, an appointment anywhere I've seen, they don't swear me.
I don't know. It's fine with me either way. I know.
I just want to make sure we're protected is all.
I do believe that if Sheila was here, she would say we have to swear him in, because even though we got elected, we had to be sworn in according to Sheila.
Yeah, but there, he's appointed, not.
If it covers.
I don't believe you're, but I'm fine not doing it. No, I don't mind. Anyway.
Okay,
Okay, nowhere does it say he has.
for the sake of, you know, just covering us, but also making sure that we can proceed swiftly. I think you just got here today. So I think let's just wait till the next board meeting, but let's make sure we're all good. I know that Deb has done the research.
Yes.
seems a little controversial. Let's just be smart about it and make sure that we have all our ducks in a row. So
There's just some paperwork I have to hand to Phil
File, yeah.
about his address and name.
okay, I think it might be good just to have that stuff on file before. So,
Or
Before
are
you
you
vote,
saying it's fine for him to sit up here, but? he
sitting
has to
up here,
wait
are
till-
you sitting up here?
Symbolic.
I am. Well, I just need it for my,
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yes.
so Chris just doesn't vote this meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Next meeting, when we know everything's cool and we
Yeah.
did it right away.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right, here we go with the 2023 draft budget report. And this is Steve and Chris. It's the 2023 budget that they're working on. There's some steps they have to go through. The first step is why this meeting is early. Thank you, Charlie. We'll be in touch.
See you, Joe.
Why this meeting is early.
What about the QuickBooks thing? He's on the agenda.
No, that's okay. I talked to you.
Yeah, okay.
That's why this meeting was pushed up, because the deadline for certain things that we have to do is the 15th. So we are going to discuss the draft budget today and go ahead and discuss, and I have my
Do
deadlines.
people have copies of it? Probably.
No, I don't even have a copy of it.
Anybody who wants a copy, I can send
That-
them.
So,
That comes later.
so Steve, what I suggest we do, I can read through basically the notes.
Let's describe the process.
Yeah, so I'll highlight the process, the notes Dr. Kennard prepared to summarize basically the rationale behind each item. And then included in that discussion and the explicit kind of line item by line item includes the amounts for each one. And then if we have specific questions, we can pull up the budget overview, the long form of everything that will need to be published and go out prior to that deadline next week. In short, we completed a process. So Steve, Dave, and I completed a process going through last year's budget from an over-unders perspective, as well as looking towards the future to think about both what makes sense strategically and what's changing that we need to be capable of addressing. So we tried to balance both experience from last year, what we knew things cost, what our kind of recurring expenses look like, balance that with what a vision of the future could look like and where initial expenditures make sense. And also a reasonable escalation on things that we don't have agreements for. So for example, with internet at Station 3, because I remember this, it costs $110 a month. So that's the cost. And that's what the internet line item for Station 3 is. It's 110 times 12, and that's it. For things like fuel, operating and other kind of miscellaneous operating expenses, that's where we try to apply a reasonable inflation escalation to that so that we know and understand kind of where that's going to be and try and be out ahead of changes over the next year. That being said, there are some contingency line items built in and some things are intentionally a little bit fuzzy, mostly to solicit comment and kind of promote the discussion, but it is still presented as a draft budget. So with those notes, we'll kind of hit the assumptions line by line and discuss what happened. So on the income side of the balance sheet, property tax revenue is going to be based on the preliminary valuation received in August and our current mill levy today. That said, that is not final until the end of the year. So what we have is what we have today. It may change, but not by more than a few percent as we go. Payroll expense factors of chief salary at $2,000 a month, administrator at $20 an hour for 40 hours a month each. Capital expenses. Actually planning, it's $30,000 a month. Let me triple check that against the spreadsheet because I'm pretty sure the spreadsheet said 20. No, so we have $30,000 budgeted next year towards fleet replacement. So either as a first contribution of the piggy bank to pay for a new truck in a few years, or to pay for a remount, or to potentially partner with, for example, a charity to help pay for our portion or for a grant match.
Let me interrupt you a second.
Please,
Do you know
please
what
do.
a remount is?
So,
Okay.
so we have that opportunity, so we have that budgeted in at $30,000 for CapEx vehicles. Whichever way we go with that, we've got the flexibility built in, it's just vehicle capital expense. We have $3,500 towards communications to pay for radio replacements. That pays for one portable radio that each firefighter needs. So we pay for one of those a year. $1,000 towards miscellaneous office supplies or office capital such as phones, printers, computers, etc. Anything listed in this budget as $1 as a placeholder for any kind of future decisions and thinking as we go.
Quick question.
Please.
What is your total variance outside of a % increase on last year's budget?
I don't know offhand.
What,
Please.
Well, I don't have the figure in front of me, but I think we're about $30,000 higher. I think last year's budget, wasn't it? Well, last year we got about 200,000 in revenue in last year. This year it says we're gonna get into about 234,000.
So I think the forecast tax revenue was going to be down
1.5%.
Yeah, that 1.3% or whatever the number was that I can barely remember. I think this year, so the FY22 budget had $100,000 towards Station 1. Instead, that is being rolled for 23 towards principally fleet replacement and not pulling nearly the same amount from reserves as was proposed. So the 22 budget had an $80,000 transfer from reserves towards that 100,000. This budget only calls for a $20,000 transfer from reserves. So a relatively more modest transfer. That said, if we don't make that fleet expense or we buy the truck for $8,000 successfully, we don't need to transfer anything from reserves and we're able to be in budget for the year.
I have a question. You said you budgeted so much for radios.
Yeah.
Isn't that something that the auxiliary could buy
Certainly.
for the firefighters?
Certainly. But we need a budget for it as a department too.
Gotta put it
It's our responsibility to at least include it in the budget. If I don't spend the money, I'm a happy camper if I don't spend that money.
Just a general budgeting practice, we don't want to put in anticipated donations or anticipated grants. We have to assume.
I
Yes.
remember that the money, the way I understand it, the money brought in from the auxiliary is to support our firefighters.
Correct.
And whether it be radios, boots, coats, hats.
I can see you bring.
And those 3,000 that we have budgeted for next year in communications, the other thing is that could be a grant match. So if the decision is made to go with a VFA grant, volunteer fire assistance grant for radios, I now have $6,000 of purchasing power with a 50-50 grant match. So I can walk up to that grant and say, I've got $3,000 in the budget. Please give me 3 more grand so I can buy 2 radios instead of 1. So we're trying to be out ahead of this as best as we can.
So Chris, it's getting late and I'm trying to avoid having a
Certainly.
3-hour meeting. So I do a lot of budget reviews with my team members. And so I start with like, hey, here's high level, just tell me this. And then we can drill in as opposed to going through every line item.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just trying to ask, hey, like big picture, what's the difference from last year? And then where's our greatest deviation on any particular line item?
Certainly. So I'll quickly highlight kind of what we have as major changes, I'd say. We're changing the name of one of the items. So we're capturing expenses more as suppression, EMS, PPE equipment. Vehicle replacement and maintenance was budgeted to 10,000. We're increasing that to 15,000. So 50% line item.
How much
increase.
more last year? How much did we exceed this year? Sorry. 'Cause I know that
By
we-
about
by
$5,000.
about $5,000.
So we're coming close to matching that
Okay.
and hitting the nearest 1,000.
Do you think that's enough?
I think it'll get us by because part of that overage this year was paying damage done by as opposed to maintenance expenses for our fleet. But maintenance expenses were still higher than expected. I believe we spent something like 11 or 12 of the 10 that we had budgeted.
If you acquire a new vehicle,
That's my hope is that
or
we
you
should,
think so, that adding another vehicle to the fleet's gonna reduce our maintenance?
it'll
expense?
take miles and wear and tear off
The more expensive
of those vehicles. You know, big diesel is always more expensive than small gas. And now that we've done work on that brush truck down the hill or further down the hill, we shouldn't have another issue with that in the same manner that it's cost us so much this year. So we think we've solved the problem. I can't be 100% certain, which is why we're still budgeting for an increase.
Come on, everybody, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
I know this is the fun part.
Board them out the door.
Right? I just follow.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Notable real other changes. So there's a 7.5% contingency line included. Kind of to match, to be an explicit line item contingency, to be discretionary as we need throughout the year. We obviously still have healthy reserves back behind that, but it's a budgeted contingency to account for whatever. The Tabor contingency of $1,200 is also.
So did that reduce the initial top line budget, or are you increasing the budget to include 7.5%?
That is in addition to it. That's in addition to everything that is line itemed out is an additional 7.5% of that sigma.
So you're at least 7.5% higher this year than you were last year.
It's an additional 7.5% on these line items. We have shifted some things around.
Yep.
So we brought down a few of our line items, including, so QuickBooks subscription got cheaper. We've eliminated mileage reimbursement for the chief since I have a fuel card and the fleet vehicle, which is gonna be cheaper anyway. And a few other things where we budgeted more. Now we have a reason to bring those things down. We brought them under control otherwise. So we've made up for that change relatively. So our totals are relatively they're within at least a standard
So you
deviation
have
of each other.
Okay, well, that's really where that was coming from.
Yep. We're running basically the same as we were last year with a smaller transfer from reserves, since we're not planning to spend $100,000 on the station rehabilitation. That being said, we still have flexibility as grant opportunities come up to be able to pursue those.
Steve, did you and Dr. Kennard agree on the budget?
Yes, we all three agreed. We sat there and went through it line by line. We saw some things that we have not used our budget and we reduced those. We saw some things like the particular vehicle that we raised and we all agreed. Yes. And I wish I was even more prepared, but I've had a very busy with the fire department business last month. It was just a lot.
We're hands-on with calculators, doing monthly to yearly costs times 1 point something time, trying to do our best to make sure that we captured, expanded, mitigated, and are presenting the best budget we can to you today.
I have a question. On your line item for
What's your name?
Trent Nolan.
Oh, hi, Trent.
For the line item for payroll, you said
Yes.
$2,000 per month for the chief.
Correct.
I noticed in the announcement said 2,000 to 3,000. Is that budget going to allow you to negotiate with the new chief should the cost go, because earlier you mentioned to what other districts?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and that was an intentional budgeted at the lower value with the intent where we do have the room to change that up if the board should choose to decide that. This is the draft budget today, so we have that ability to make those tweaks today.
And that's a negotiable point with a person that would apply.
Certainly.
Where did you see that, Trent?
In the job announcement, it says
Oh,
pay
the
2,000,
job, yeah.
3,000 per month. And then you just said it was only a budget of 2,000.
Yeah,
So I
correct.
just want to make sure there was ability to negotiate if necessary.
Sir.
I apologize. Could you give me your last name again?
Trent Miller.
That's what I thought I heard, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, is that it?
I guess if there are any additional questions, we can dive into any line items we want. There is one that there are actually two that I felt that I didn't mention. Accounting expenses are included. We're estimating roughly $10,000 to complete an audit. If that audit is proved not necessary with an audit exemption, we can forego that, but then whatever portion the audit exemption cost would then cost out of that 10,000. Simultaneously, election expenses, we scaled from prior $6,000 to $8,000
Guess again.
previous expenses. So we budgeted more than those. Obviously, if there's no election, then that just won't get spent. But it sounds like there will be an election, so it's in the budget anyway.
Right, it was almost 11,000.
Spent $11,000.
$11,000 was the last one.
So we may need to increase that anyway.
I think you may need to. Just for general information, there's some steps that have to be taken after this budget is proposed tonight. This is a draft budget. That's the October meeting, which we had to be earlier. The publication can just be a notice of the budget availability for inspection online. So we can.
You'll post it?
We need to post it online for people to look at.
Who's going to post it?
Website,
Should we
is that
do-
correct?
Yeah, on the website.
When does it need to be posted by?
Could you post it where it's easy to find, like on the main page, with a big thing that says proposed budget for 2023?
So
Is it the deadline of 15 October or is it upon
By
receipt?
by October 15th, the proposed budget comes to the board. And then there has to be a notice of a budget hearing by the 15th, published when, and we will post hard copy at the Grange, she's gone, in case people can't go online to inspect the budget. So it has to be available online. Then we have the paper pasted on in the station and Grange windows for folks that don't have access to the internet. Then there has to be a notice for the November meeting. And at the November meeting, there's public comment. And the December meeting is the final approval before the 15th of December of that budget. So it's not going to be final until it goes through all this other stuff. You've been through this, Mary. This is my first go round. So we're going to follow these steps.
The date again, December, what was?
October 15th is the first deadline we have to meet. The next one is December 10th is a hard deadline.
Okay. That was what I was looking for. Thank you.
All this will be explained. I've lost my. Are there any more questions about the budget? I think that's going to be it. For those of you who aren't aware, Charlie Haupt, who was standing in the back, has offered a bookkeeper, and we're going to meet with him and her to help us with QuickBooks so we can get going on the financials. It's been a little bit of a stumbling block, but I think we've got a path forward, thanks to, again, community input, which we so appreciate. And I so appreciate you all being here tonight for a long meeting. Any more public comment? If not, move for adjournment.
I move, well, I'll take 30 seconds to see if there's any public
Yeah,
comment.
any public comment?
I can just use the moment for public education. This is a good time to clean pine needles, take care of any of those debris that have built up around your house. Fire season is year round in Colorado. Marshall Fire was at the end of the year. Cameron Peak and East Troublesome and all of those happen this time of the year. We're not out of fire season yet. So please be alert to those fire prevention things around your home, and call us if you need us.
I do have a question that brings up, that Terry took off. She said she's going to handle the Firewise. Does that include having a way to get our information about all the hours we put in mitigate?
Yeah, I've signed up for, I'll be talking with Terry. And we have some additional help from Lori Brill, who's signed on to help with the Firewise stuff also. So we'll be, there's just been so much on our plates, but we are dealing with that. And yes.
That's why you always wait 30 seconds.
Move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Susan, for a wonderful pig roast and all that great money. They said-